Hello and welcome to biology class. We are studying topic kingdom Animalia, and in this topic basically we are going to study classification of animal kingdom. And kingdom Animalia is basically further classified into different phylums. And last video onwards we started studying each phylum in detail. So in the previous video we have studied phylum Porifera in detail. Phylum Porifera are nothing but sponges, and sponges include like simple and primitive animals. Now in this today we are going to study next phylum, that is phylum Cnidaria, which was formerly called as, previously it was called as Coelenterata. So this phylum particularly include advanced animals as compared to Porifera. So let us go and study these animals in details. Let us start with examples, and with the help of example, let us try to understand each characteristic of phylum Cnidaria in details. So the first and very common example of Cnidaria is nothing but the Hydra, which is the most common example of Cnidaria, and we are very familiar with Hydra. The next example of Cnidaria include corals. Okay, you know these corals, what corals are? Now corals are the marine animals which are basically doesn't look like animals. They are they are found at the base of the ocean, and they look something like this. Very near to us there is one corals found which is in the near the Malvan shore, near the Sindhudurga fort. Okay, so you can see those corals. They are really very beautiful, and there are arrangements to see them. Now next thing is that these corals are nothing, they doesn't look like animals, but actually those are animal colonies. So we will study them in details. So first of all, by taking these two examples, let us try to understand few characteristics of a Coelenterata. Formerly it was called as Coelenterata. Nowadays it is called as Cnidaria. Why this old name and why this new name? Let us try to understand everything. But first let us, as a starting point, as a first characteristic, let us try to understand the habitat of the coelenterate, habitat of the Cnidaria. Now, these corals are basically always marine. These animals, the corals, which are the example of Coelenterata, are always marine. But when we consider Hydra, it can stay in the fresh water. See, remember, while writing habitat is always aquatic. Some are freshwater, for example Hydra, while some are staying in marine water, for example corals. There are other examples, there are jellyfish, there are sea anemone. So there are examples which are even staying in marine water. Now, as they are staying at the bottom of the ocean, at the floor of the ocean, what we can say them? What we will call them? Which habitat? Benthoic habitat. So basically corals again show, or most of the coelenterate show, benthoic habitat. There are some which show planktonic habitat, that is they float on the ocean, that we will come ahead. Now next thing you need to understand after habitat, so first characteristic is clear. We studied about habitat. Now the next characteristic of Coelenterata is about its mode of living. Now here if you see, here these corals are basically single animals, okay, but here they are staying in colonies, okay, they are basically staying in colonies. So coral mode of living is colonial. But here on the other hand you can find this Hydra singly, okay, it can be solitary. Even jellyfish is another example which is also solitary, they live alone. While on the other hand corals form colonies. So mode of living may be colonial, may be solitary. Okay. Now next thing is Next about its mode of living. Now when we consider this Hydra, it remain attached to the or attached to something, either some rock in the water or either some wood in the water. But Hydra always will remain attached. Likewise, this coral also remain attached to rocks, okay, or at the floor of the ocean, okay. So likewise, when we consider Hydra or when we consider corals, they are sedentary in nature. They remain attached to the substrata. On the other hand, when we consider jellyfish, it is free swimming. So, Coelenterata may be sedentary, may be free living, may be colonial, may be solitary. Are you getting the meaning of each term? Do you remember all the terms which we have studied before? Now, if you see this example, this is also a close view of one kind of corals called as red corals, and scientifically its name is Tubipora. Now, Tubipora is also one kind of corals. If you see individual animal in these corals, you will see them. They are like cylinder. Individual animal is like this. They are like cylinders. So initially, as they are cylindrical, initially they were called as Coelenterata. But afterward, scientists realized that every Coelenterata is not, every animal coming under this phylum is not cylindrical. Hydra is cylindrical, coral is cylindrical. It doesn't mean everyone else is cylindrical. So they changed its name and gave it name as a Cnidaria. Why Cnidaria? After some time we will study it. So let us go and study some more examples of Coelenterata, of Cnidaria, and then we'll go ahead. One more example of Cnidaria is this sea anemone. Okay, sea anemone are like these animals which are having tentacles, and they show basically, most of time they are asymmetrical, but some of them even show radial symmetry. Okay, so these are the one. Even Hydra show radial symmetry, remember. Now, so these are the sea anemone. Another example is jellyfish. Jellyfish is also showing radial symmetry. We have already studied example of jellyfish in the radial symmetry, correct? So, and this is one more kind of jellyfish. Now let us try to understand why the coelentrate's name is changed and name Cnidaria is given. Now when scientists studied jellyfish in details, they found that this jellyfish, inside here there is a mouth of jellyfish, okay. Near its mouth, jellyfish is having special cells called as cnidocytes. See the spelling of cnidocyte, it starts with C. C is silent. Cnidocytes. So these cnidocytes are basically stinging cells. Cnidocytes are what? Stinging cells. Now, stinging cells are very special cells, and they are used also for special purpose. Now, try to understand how exactly the stinging cells are. They are having a sac-like structure down, okay, and above it is having sting, very sharp sting, okay. It is having very sharp sting. Now, this sting is called as, the sting is basically called as nematocyst. Now beneath the sting there is a sac which is full of poison, which is having poison inside. So when, see, now this jellyfish is basically attacking in nature. It attack the prey and paralyze the prey and eat it. Like snake. Snake also capture the prey, paralyze it with poison and then eat it. Likewise, this jellyfish also attack the fish, okay. It is 10 to 15 centimeter in diameter, so it is comparatively larger in size, and it basically eat small fish. So basically this nematocysts are the stinging cells which sting which is having poison, where this poison can paralyze another fish. So this cnidocytes are basically used either for attacking or either it's for own protection also. So this, as the animals were having these cnidocytes, okay, that's why they are called as Cnidaria, the animals with cnidocytes. Understanding? So initially name was Coelenterata, as they were having cylindrical shape. Afterward name is changed and a new name is given on the presence of their cnidocytes. Understanding? Clear about it? Now let us go and study the further point. So far in this Cnidaria, we have studied its habitat, its mode of living, and why it was named as a coelenterate, and afterward its name is changed, and why now it is Cnidaria. So let us go and study its further characteristic. Now as I told you, its symmetry is either radial symmetry, in jellyfish also radial symmetry, or some even are asymmetry. Now next thing is that they're having blind sac body plan. Okay, blind sac body plan means one opening is only one digestive system is having single opening. Their another important characteristic is that they show tissue level of organization. Now they are not as primitive as Porifera. Porifera was showing which type of organization? Cellular level of organization, so which is very basic. Only there is a gatheration of cell, but cells are not having any coordination between them. But in Cnidaria, little bit advanced, so they are having tissue level of organization. Cells come together to form tissue, but this tissue do not come together to form organs. Okay, so still they are basic. Again, they are diploblastic. Do you remember what do you mean by diploblastic? Only two germ layers. Okay, which two germ layers? Ectoderm and endoderm, and mesoderm is replaced by mesoglia. So these are some general characteristics. So let us go to more specific characteristic, and only such a characteristic which only these animals show. So let us talk more about its reproduction first. Now when we consider reproduction in Hydra, which we studied even in 10th standard, reproduction in Hydra takes place by budding. So budding is the main method of reproduction, and budding is a method of asexual reproduction. So most of the animals in Coelenterata do asexual mode of reproduction by budding. Even corals also reproduce by budding method. Budding is the method of reproduction even in corals. Their colonies are formed by budding. Now next thing you need to remember, very specific characteristic of these Cnidaria. It is their sexual mode of reproduction. It is a little bit different. Now generally sexual mode of reproduction is by gametes. In them also it takes place by gametes, but still in little bit different way. But to understand the sexual reproduction in Cnidaria, you need to understand one thing called as polymorphism. See, I am writing what you need to understand. Polymorphism. First try to understand what polymorphism is, and then we will go ahead. Now poly means, what do you mean by poly? Many. Poly means many, and morphism means body forms. Body forms. The animal with many body form is polymorphism, and Coelenterata is well known to show this polymorphism. Now not all of the Coelenterata show polymorphism, but some of them are very peculiar about their polymorphism. Now to understand polymorphism, and try to understand few things. Now look at this umbrella jelly. Can you see? Now when we see this umbrella jelly in ocean, if we observe it for lifetime, it will be jellyfish. Always it is a jellyfish. Okay, we can see any time in its lifespan from birth to death of the jellyfish, it will be always look similar. Small jellyfish, then it will grow up, but it will be jellyfish. Okay. Now next thing, but in corals that is a different thing happens. See, corals are sedentary. They are at the bottom of ocean. They can reproduce only by budding when they are at their place. But suppose the corals are growing at one shore of the ocean, they want to spread their population to the another shore also. Agree? Means right now suppose they are growing at Lakshadweep, they want to grow at the another shore also. But as they are sedentary, they cannot move. Agree? They cannot move. So for reproduction, they do little different thing. At some stages of their life, okay, at some period of the year. Generally that period is just before spring arrives, okay. So before that period, what happens is all the colony of that corals will undergo budding, okay. And after budding means asexual reproduction. After budding they will produce a totally different looking animal, totally different looking, not sedentary, not rocky. Instead of that they produce very beautiful jellyfish like this moon jelly. Getting my point? See, these animals which are corals, which are just like a rock at the bottom of the ocean, they undergo budding and they form this animal, moon jelly. Understanding? And these moon jellies, these jellyfish, they will come up, okay, and all of them together they will come up, and they at a certain period at the surface of the ocean there will be all these moon jellies, these beautiful jellies, okay, jellyfish. So basically that time it is called as boom of jellyfish, okay. Whole the surface of the ocean at that area is full of jellyfish. How they are produced? They are produced by the budding in the corals, okay. But the corals look very different, and these jellyfish look very different. So same animal is having more than two body form or more than one body form. One body form is sedentary, rock like, sedentary, correct. And whereas another body form which is jelly like and which is free swimming. So only single organism form two body form, one is sedentary and one is free living. The sedentary body form, that is corals, are called as polyp. Corals are called as polyp, while this free living jellyfish, this jellyfish is called as medusa. Understanding? Single organism look totally different. One form is rocky sedentary form, corals, and another form is a jellyfish, freely swimming and beautiful jellyfish. Understanding? Now what will happen? This medusa form, see, polyp form is corals, which we see corals, and medusa form is this jellyfish like structure. So this medusa basically, this polyp basically cannot swim, it is sedentary. But medusa swim, okay, in ocean. It will go into the other shore, okay. There it will produce gametes, it will do sexual reproduction. And after sexual reproduction, okay, whatever zygote is formed, that zygote again form polyp. See, polyp initially formed medusa. Initially polyp only formed medusa, and now medusa give rise to polyp. So this is alternate form. Once polyp give rise to medusa, another medusa give rise to polyp. So there is an alternation of their body form, and this concept or this phenomenon is called as polymorphism. And this polymorphism is very peculiar characteristic of some of the coelenterids. Understanding? Clear about it? Remember this umbrella jelly and Hydra, this some kind of coelenterids never show polymorphism. Corals are the one very peculiar. Another one are called as Aurelia colony. So these kind of organisms show the presence of polymorphism. Clear about it? And remember, it is very peculiar characteristic of this phylum. Understanding? Clear about it? Let us go to the next. So let us try to make a list of the characteristics in Coelenterata and try to understand it. The first characteristic is mode of living, either sedentary or free living. Then they may be solitary life or maybe colonial behavior. Remember the examples for each one, which are sedentary, which are free living, which are solitary, which are colonial. Okay, tell me sedentary. Hydra and corals. Free living, jellyfish. Solitary, Hydra is also solitary, jellyfish also solitary. Colonial, all corals, Aurelia colonies, another example. Then second characteristic is tissue level of organization. Then third characteristic is show radial symmetry, or some of them show bilateral symmetry. Habitat aquatic, always marine. Diploblastic animals, only 2 germ layers. Nutrition, they are mostly carnivorous, means holozoic mode of nutrition. Then they show blind sac body plan. What is blind sac body plan? Blind sac body plan, only single opening for the digestive system. Then they are having a diffuse type of nervous system, which is very simple, simplest type of nervous system. So they are having small neurons distributed here and there in their body, but there is no coordination between them, very little coordination between them. So such a nervous system is called as a diffuse type of nervous system. Then they show the presence of cnidocytes and which contain nematocyst. Understanding? Then the next characteristic is they show presence of gastrovascular cavity. Yeah, this I have not explained you. I am explaining you right now. Pay attention. Gastrovascular cavity is the special characteristic of these animals, the coelenterids. Here gastro means digestive system. Gastro means what? Digestive system, and vascular means circulatory system. So Hydra is having a central cavity which is called as gastrovascular cavity, which work for digestion also as well as even for circulation. Understanding? Clear about it? Now next one is about its reproduction. Reproduction mainly by budding, even they do sexual reproduction by fragmentation. Even by fragmentation, but it is rare. See, reproduction both the time asexual as well as sexual. Asexual mostly by budding, sometime by fragmentation, and sexual reproduction by the formation of medusa. Okay. Now the polyp and medusa are the two body form. Polyps are sessile, solitary, colonial, while medusa is jellyfish-like. Now there is an interesting story why they are called as medusa. Now see. Carolus Linnaeus is that very famous scientist who named almost all the organisms, 90% of the organisms, who discovered that binomial nomenclature. Do you remember Carolus Linnaeus? Okay, so this Carolus Linnaeus was the one who found out these two forms, polyp and medusa. Okay, and when he have seen the medusa form, he realized that this medusa is having long tentacles. Okay, this jellyfish is having long tentacles, and there is one monster in Greek mythology. In Greek people culture, there is one monster called as Medusa, and that Medusa monster is having long tentacles. Okay, so he thought this form is also look like that monster. That's why he named it as a Medusa. Okay, this polyp and Medusa are there. Two forms are there. That's why it is polymorphism. And Cnidarians, many Cnidarians show this polymorphism, and you need to remember its examples: Hydra, Aurelia colony. Then Phycelia is that umbrella jellyfish. Okay, and sea anemone are few examples. So this is all about coelenterids. Try to remember many characteristics of it, as many as you can, and try to understand the meaning of polymorphism, gastrovascular cavity, kind of things. Remember it. With this knowledge, see you in the next video. Till then, goodbye, take care.